life's all about stuff like good judgment and smart decisions, right? Well, not for all of us. If you're one of those who don't take life too seriously, here's the good news. You're not alone. 10. Mohamad Kanan. Over 100 goals in about 120 games for PSV Eindhoven. That's like setting the football world on fire and becoming one of the hottest prospects out there, right? But then something strange happened. When he moved to Chelsea, it's like he misplaced his goal-scoring spell. After that, he had stints with Atletico Madrid and Fenerbahce, and while he did okay in Turkey, he couldn't quite regain his former glory. Then came PSG, but it didn't work out from there. Things took a sharp turn for even the worse. Zenit, South China, Bate Borisov, but none of those stops lived up to the earlier hype. Expectations were high, but in the reality it was quite different. 9. Adriano Leite. Here's another Brazilian talent who had all the potential, but, well, things didn't go quite as well as he expected. He made a dazzling move for Flamengo to Inter, but sadly it didn't click at the Giuseppe Meazza. However, there were brighter days ahead. At this time, he found his groove in Fiorentina and Parma, and then he made a return to Inter. In the beginning, he looked like a comeback story, but you see, Milan's nightlife had other plans for him. His performance dipped as his love for the city lights grew. From there, it was a bit of a downhill slide, except for a brief period when he rediscovered his best form back in Brazil. 8. Rafael van der Vaart. Here's the story of a talented Dutch midfielder who had the potential to shine at Real Madrid, but it didn't quite work out as planned. You see, he was in the shadows of his fellow countryman, Wesley Sneijder, so he quietly made his exit from Bernabeu. After that, he had a decent run at Tottenham, but things started to slip. He eventually found himself in the Bundesliga with Hamburg, but there, his importance gradually faded until he became a bench warmer, a player with immense skill, but unfortunately he struggled with consistency and left managers and fans equally frustrated. 7. Ricardo Quaresma. Here's a tale of a Portuguese star who once shared the spotlight with Cristiano Ronaldo. Back in 2003, he joined Barcelona, but he left Camp Nou to pave the way for Deco, and well, he kinda missed out on Barcelona's golden years. After shining at Porto, he made a bit of a rough patch, and with disappointing stints at Inter and Chelsea. However, he eventually found his groove at Besiktas, and he even made a comeback with the Portuguese national team and helped them win the Euros in France. But despite his undeniable talent, he's still not quite in the same league as football's elite. 6. Mason Greenwood. When Mason Greenwood burst onto the football scene, the world had high hopes for the young English talent. He was a rising star at Manchester United, having come up through the youth ranks. I mean, this guy was breaking records left and right. Remember when he scored in the UFR Europa League match back in September 2019? And just 17 years and 353 days old, he became the youngest ever goal scorer for the club of European competition. It was like the world was his oyster. Later on, he quickly became a key player for Manchester United's first team and even earned his spot on the English national team. But then, things took a drastic turn. In January 2022, Greenwood was arrested and accused of some serious offenses, including rape, assault, sexual assault, and threats to kill. And that wasn't all. His ex-girlfriend came forward with evidence of abuse. Since these controversies emerged, Greenwood has been notably absent from both his club and the national team. It's a stark reminder of how a promising career can take a sharp turn, leaving everyone wondering what might have even been. 5. Adriano Leite Ribeiro. Adriano is a former Brazilian football star who lit up the 2000s and mid-2010s. The guy was such a prodigious talent that people called him the following Brazil legend, Ronaldo de Lima. He rocked the stage while playing for Inter Milan in Italy, netting 48 goals in 123 appearances. It seemed like he was destined for football greatness. But then, life threw him curveballs. His world took a somber turn when his father tragically passed away in the mid-2000s. This hit Adriano like a ton of bricks, and he struggled. To cope with the pain, he turned to alcohol and wild partying. It's a stark reminder for him that even the brightest stars can have their share of dark days. 4. Ronaldinho. Here's a story about one of the biggest talents we've seen in recent years. You know, the kind of player who had the world right at his feet. But somehow, he left us all with the feeling that he never quite reached his full potential. We thought he'd be in the best conversation, but now we mostly remember him as a great player who had his heyday for just about 4 or 5 years. It's a bit of a sad tale. Parties and a surprising lack of drive seemed to take a toll on him and transformed him from a football sensation to a second-rate player. While another maestro, Xavi, was conquering the world with Barcelona, this Brazilian star was extending his career at clubs like Atletico Mineiro, Querétaro, and Fluminense. Certainly, his talent alone was not enough to secure his lasting legacy. 3. Andriy Shevchenko. This Ukrainian player had a bit of a peculiar career. In the earlier days of his career, he made waves in his home country, catching the attention of none other than Sir Alex Ferguson, the legendary manager of Manchester United. So he packed his bags and headed to Old Trafford with dreams of stardom. And you know what? He did pretty well with the Red Devils. However, things took a strange turn in 1997 when he was just 28. Suddenly, it was like he lost all his footballing magic. Unfortunately, he bounced around lower league teams and slowly faded into obscurity. 2. Anderson. Anderson was a guy who was a real sensation at Porto. At that time, Sir Alex Ferguson saw something special in him and sealed a $19 million deal to bring him to Old Trafford in 2007. And you know what? He started pretty strong with Manchester United, but as time went on, he seemed to fade into the background. There was a noticeable change. He put on quite a bit of weight, and managers like Moyes and Van Gaal didn't seem too thrilled with him. Fast forward to today, and he's playing in Brazil. But it's safe to say he's a far cry from the young midfield dynamo who was once aspiring to become a star. It is interesting to know how quickly things can change in the world of football. 1. Mohamad Kanan. Here's a fascinating journey of Kanan, from Sierra Leone to the grand stage of Inter Milan at just 16. Back then, everyone was betting on him to become one of the greatest African footballers ever, but things took a different turn. Later on, he went on multiple loan spells and finally cracked the first team when he was 22. It seemed like the start of something special, but then his star began to dim. Back on the loan train he went, this time to Monaco. He did alright in League One, but then, surprise, surprise, he found himself in the French 3rd Division. Eventually, he returned to Sierra Leone, playing for Caen FC, a club he founded himself in his homeland. Undoubtedly, his career was full of highs and lows, dreams and detours in the world of football. Thanks for watching the entire video. Please show some support from your side by hitting the like, share, and subscribe buttons on this channel. Until next time.